Hello and welcome to Manika IS. Today we'll be beginning with our discussion with respect to the ancient Indian history subject. It is a part of your prelims as well as your mains examination for UPSC civil services, right? So before we actually begin with the ancient Indian history subject discussion, we must know the relevance of history and why, at the very first space, history is kept as an important portion of syllabus. Why there is so much of weightage being given to history, right? So basically, you need to know why should you read history before you actually know what exactly we need to read in history, right? See, history is what it is: development of any country or say world from ancient times. Ancient means from the origin of earth till date. That is history, right? That is what we mean when we say history. Every day that you cross become an history, and you enter into your present, and tomorrow will be your future. So everything that you have done till today, till this point of time, is history, and you need to read history to understand the good things and the bad things, the right dones and the wrong dones that you have done. When it comes specifically to the people who will be a part of our administrators administration, they will be tomorrow's administrators. They should have a deeper understanding of how the rules and the rulers grew, how when you lose and when you win the battles, how you need to. And battle is not necessarily in terms of war, but in terms of achieving any policy impact, या फिर or any sort of uh, development that you want to achieve, how you want to achieve, how you can do that. That is an important learning that you gain from history. Further, you will be going and working in every nook and corner of India. You will be dealing with the people who have grown in these circumstances, who have that deep rooted understanding with the society. So in order to understand what exactly the society is, what exactly development that occur over a period of time, what is their mindset, and how you can convince them to get something done, or what is their requirements in terms of development, it is important to know the history, right? So that is the relevance of history. Further, if you see the questions, the questions are not, if you rather in prelims and mains, you will find question is less about rules or wars, but they are more about literature, religion, social developments, society developments. They are more about societal developments. So they are more about culture. They're more about the cultural glory and heritage of India. That you should know, that any individual who is a national of India, who is a citizen of India, should know about the glory of India, about the enriched culture, the diversified culture. That is why the subject is given such a huge amount of weightage in the exam. So, what will be the aim of these series that will be starting today is to give you a in-depth understanding and give you a clear picture of how India in the back date turned to an India of today, and how the society changes and it works, right? So that will be the aim of these lecture series of ancient Indian history, and we'll definitely be dealing the questions with respect to a particular topic that we are covering, questions with of previous year papers, and some for questions that can be their potential, they can be asked in the exam, will be covered in this series. So let's move on to the discussion of syllabus of ancient Indian history. See, ancient Indian history is your is a time period that you may consider from origin of man till somewhere around 1000 AD. This time period will be covering in our understanding of history. Okay, actually not 1000, it should be 750 AD. 700 to 750 AD. That will be covering in ancient Indian history. So the foremost is prehistoric stone culture. See, I'll be discussing what exactly will be covering in it and what is important from the exam point of view, what should be our focus when we are reading. Knowing political history is important in order to understand the cultural and social history of a particular uh, society. Okay? But the important point that you should keep in mind that the focus of the question will be on the cultural and social history rather than on the political history. You'll hardly be getting any question on the political history. It will be based on cultural and social history only, right? So, in prehistoric cultures means the cultures in which you do not have any written evidences, right? In these cultures, your focus should be on the livelihood, the kind of settlements, the new tools and technologies that came during that time, how man started adapting towards the situation, right? That is important, you should know. And the second thing is the paintings, which came in the upper Paleolithic period. You should know the development of painting, which is an art form which today is very versatile, and you have a lot of diversity that you found in India. The origin of these paintings are from prehistoric times, from the upper Paleolithic age, and that is something that that you should focus on. The question from this area have been asked in the preliminary exam in you as well as in the mains exam as well. Okay, then comes to the stone copper phase. That is there are not more questions being asked, just a comparison sometimes can be asked. Otherwise, in from Chalcolithic period, less of the questions being asked. And then you come to the Indus Valley civilization. In Indus Valley civilization, this is an extremely important topic when it comes to UPSC. UPSC is fond of asking questions from this particular segment. In each paper, you will find one or two questions. Another important thing in prehistoric, I forgot to tell you, is the sites. You should remember the names of the sites, right? And then comes to the Indus Valley civilization. In IVC, you'll be getting questions with respect to town planning. See, the kind of urbanization and the kind of town planning that we witnessed in the IVC is unparalleled till date, and I would say it was the highest civilization it was more urbanized than its contemporary civilization at that time. So that is the kind of drainage, the kind of town planning that we saw in IVC. And then their trade also, and seals, art and culture, craft. That is a very important aspect. And then that is the area from there you get the questions in exam as well. So focus should be on the cultural and social development, the kind of urbanization. This is a very prominent area when it comes to the questions being asked from UPSC. Then you see the Vedic period. See, Vedic period has contributed in terms of its literature. The position of women in the early Vedic period was very high, and it started deteriorating from the later Vedic periods onwards. So the transition and the status of women and the origin of the Varna system, downgrading of Shudras and all, they started from this period onward, from the later Vedic period. So the transition in society is an important aspect that you should know. And again, the Vedic literature, your four Vedas, Brahmanas, Upanishad, is a prominent area, specifically when it comes to preliminary examination. You get a lot of questions from this aspect as well. Buddhism and Jainism, again, after IVC, if you have another important area, that is Buddhism and Jainism. These two, the beginning of these religion is from India, and that is where they gain importance. In today times, they are an important asset of our soft power, that in our international relation, they are a tool of a soft power. That is why they have gained so much of importance in the UPSC exam as well. Further, the contribution in terms of literature, the contribution in terms of their theory, and is very important to the Indian society. They are a deep rooted culture of Indian society, so they gain prominence, and these are the areas from where you'll be getting the questions as well, right? Then Mahajanpadas, obviously here you'll the factual information is not that important in this area, but what is important for you to know, why Magadha gained so much of importance out of all the Mahajanpadas that were there. What were the geographical region, how geography aided, right? That is important aspect that you should know. Second, and then when it comes to the Iranian and Macedonian invasion, the important aspect is their impact on Indian art. And by that, I mean the development of Gandhara art. So, that is an important aspect that you should keep in mind when you're reading with these topics. Again, when it comes to Mauryan Empire, the most important thing is the contribution of Ashoka and other emperors to the art and culture, the edicts, the pillars. From these areas, you get a lot of questions, and then the Ashoka Dhamma policy, impact of Buddhism and cultural development. And that is the important aspect when it comes to the Mauryan Empire as well. Again, when it comes to this, in deep south you see the megalithic cultures, how it flourished, and that the reason why megaliths were found there, that is important. What are megaliths? That is important from these aspects. Again, then the another important aspect is your Gupta period. Gupta period, why it is known as the golden age, right? In terms of trade, in terms of art and culture, in terms of coinage system, these things are important when it comes to the exam. And then again, similarly as the age of Harsha, the importance, the another important aspect of foreign traveler, the account of foreign traveler who came to India, they have described the glory of India. So that is something that you should be keeping more focus on to, rather than keeping your focus on the political and historical battles, because they takes a backseat when it comes to the questions being asked in UPSC over these topics, right? So these all things will be covering in the ancient Indian history part, and the remaining we'll discuss in details when we proceed with the lecture series. Now, the second aspect is, what are the sources that you should be reading when it comes to these topics, covering your ancient Indian history. The basic and the foremost source should be, you should not miss out on this particular source is your NCRT by R.S. Sharma. That is a very important source, and this should not, I repeat, be left out when you're reading ancient Indian history. So this is the most important source. Then you can also refer to ancient Indian history books of Tamil Nadu board, right? That is also a very good account of history is given. You may supplement it with the previous year question papers and practice test. That will suffice you when it comes to history. Other than that, the factual information which is not there in history, will try to cover it in our lectures as well, right? So this is it for today. And with respect to the syllabus coverage or any other doubt if you have in your minds, you may please ask your questions in the comment section below. I will be very happy to help you that way. And the next time we'll be meeting, we'll be covering Paleolithic culture or the prehistoric culture. We'll be starting with the prehistory and we'll be covering the Paleolithic culture at the very first point. So that will be the next uh, lecture that we'll be covering. And thank you for today. Have a good day. Thank you.